I want to start the conversation with a quote from your book. It says, "I spent 31 years of my life associated with an institution that was and still is complicit in the abuse of my people." When I read that quote, I decided I've got to read this book because I want to hear that perspective. But let's start with what made you want to go into policing in the first place, knowing things like that.
It was more of an incident that happened to me, why I decided to go into policing. I was all of 16, just got my driver's license. I was driving in the parking lot, and I came head-to-head with a Toronto police officer. We made eye contact, and of course, the lights go on. He comes out of the car, walks over to me, and demands my driver's license, ownership, and insurance. I handed it over to him, and then the abuse started. He started out with, who do you think you are? You black guys are bums. And he just kept berating me. He got so furious at me that he just threw my papers. He didn't even check them. He threw them on my lap and walked away. And when he did that, I realized why. He looked at me as a young black man, and beside me was a young white woman. That made him incensed.
That's where the anger came from.
That's where the anger came from. At that point in time, I realized that I never want to be in that position again. I just don't want to be there. In order for me to do something about it,
join them.
I need to join them. And I knew, even at that age, that I could provide a better way of policing than this man serviced me that day.
How difficult then was it for you to get into a police service?
Well, it was a nightmare, to be honest with you. 6 years.
And how many did you apply to? How many police departments?
Oh, geez.
I think the book said around 13.
About 13. At last memory, it was around 13 police departments that I applied to. And finally was hired by the York Regional Police.
And this wasn't that long ago, though.
Mind you, I applied twice for the York Regional Police. I was not accepted the first time. Second time I was, yeah.
Then you went on to have this incredible career with them.
Incredible career, yeah.
You fought for change from within. And as someone who stood in similar shoes, you're also a former president of the Association of Black Law Enforcers, so you're always trying to lift as you climbed in the service.
Yes.
What is your take then on what is happening with Stacey Clark at the Toronto Police?
How are you feeling?
Superintendent Stacey Clark was on the witness stand today being cross-examined by a police prosecutor. The first black female officer to reach the rank of superintendent apologized once again for her misconduct.
The groundbreaking officer pleaded guilty to interfering in the force's promotional process, but argued it was a desperate attempt to diversify leadership in the face of systemic racism.
What Stacey has alluded to is real. How many diverse candidates or diverse members are in the homicide units, in the robbery units, in the sexual assault units?
I think Les Dunkley was like the only black homicide detective in all of Canada or Eastern Canada, something like that.
Are you telling me that in a police service such as Toronto,
you can't find black officers to put on the homicide unit?
Put on a homicide unit or specialty units? The question is always, what do we do about it? How can we level the playing field? When you are looking to hire, to promote the 10 sergeants, you have, let's say, 200 applicants that are vying for those 10 positions, and 185 of them are male whites.
The numbers are the numbers.
The numbers are the numbers, right? So how do we get past that? It's a system problem, and it's a management problem. I'm going to throw this out, and it might not be popular, but...
You're retired now. You can speak your mind.
I'm going to do it, right?
Yes.
There is a nepotism problem in there. Yeah. There's brothers, sisters,
I see
uncle,
the cousins.
aunts,
I
cousins.
see that. You see the last name sometime. You're like, okay.
And when they're coming from policing families, they bring their families.
It's part of that,
right? So that's the battle that you're fighting as well, right? They would prefer to give the opportunity to their friends and families and co-workers, the people they play golf and hockey with. Where do we fit in?
Yeah.
Right?
Because you need to be up on that level to be able to build them up.
We need to be on that level, right?
Another quote from the book, and I want to finish with this. It is the overreach in the form of racial profiling, the unnecessary use of force, the extrajudicial application of the law that creates the resentment. I've shared with you stories about when I was a kid and some of the policing things that kind of turn your mind against police when you're a young kid growing up in this city. you also say that, in your view, most of the complaints that they're getting are warranted. Like, there is a problem here. My question to you is then, how do you then reconcile that you know is happening and you know the bad actors are committing out there, with the pride that you have in this profession that you had for 3 decades?
So I love policing. Every core of me loved what I did because I looked at it as a service, providing a service to the community. It didn't matter the color, the race, the dynamics. I was providing a service. And I think that's what our community wants. They want service from the police, right? It would be a wonderful feeling if a police officer came up to you and just smiled and had an everyday conversation with you, rather than walking in and looking at you as perhaps somebody that has a criminal mentality.
Listen, I've been in handcuffs far too many times,
Yeah,
and I've never been charged with anything. I've been in the back of the car. I mean, I was like, why am I?
Why? I mean, you know, as a youth, I relish
we grew
the
up
times,
in similar circumstances.
Yeah, I relish the times when an officer would come up and just talk.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that's what we're looking for. Just be people. When we don't get that, that's a problem.
That's a
right?
problem, Steve.
And they can provide it.
Yes.
They can provide it.
And you felt like you did in your 30
I
years.
absolutely did. Right?
Yeah. This is such a thorny issue, Keith, but you balance in this book. You're very critical of policing, but at the same time, you're very pragmatic and practical, and you understand the need of it in society.
Yes.
And also the pride in the work that you had for yourself. An important read. Thank you.
Thank you
It
very
really
much,
is.
Dwight. Thanks for having me.
It really is.
Appreciate it. Thank you.